So Sunday, July 4th, we are looking at the moon in Taurus. We definitely were given a little bit of a blessing, having that shift, that energy really ground us out, bring us back down to reality, earth us in what is familiar, what is comfortable, our normal routines, our normal, situations where we find comfort in the little things. We're definitely slowing things down, which isn't a bad thing, especially with all the anger, the frustration, the irritability, the excitement being triggered with all of that fire energy. That moon in Aries really picked us up. But unfortunately for us, it did kind of lead to a frustrating situation because we can't move as fast as we would like to move right now. And that is just super bummer, right? Just a super bummer. We are getting revved up. We're finally starting to feel alive for the first time in a while. We're starting to get excited about life again. And then of course the universe pumps its brakes, says, you know what? You're not ready yet. You're not prepared yet. So coming back down to earth, coming back down to stable footing, especially in our emotions, is going to help us really recognize what it is that we have to put more time, effort, and energy into, especially when it comes to planning, being strategic, thinking logically and practically about the next moves that we are going to make. So the moon is going to go ahead and make an aspect here with Neptune. Now, Neptune is retrograde in its place of power in Pisces, very dreamy, very imaginative, very creative, very spiritual. But at the same time, we are exposing the truth, the ugly truth. If you will take a look at the global stage right now, the greater, grander collective, there is a lot of ugliness that is being exposed. We are essentially turning the darkness into light, where we have been disillusioned, where it is we've been lied to, where it is that there's been betrayals and deception. All of that is coming out. Why? Because we are in the great awakening right now, where we have to acknowledge the darkness that we've accumulated as the greater, grander collective. And of course, this translates to us on an individual level as well. The moon in Taurus wants us to be grounded, wants us to really think from a logical and practical standpoint. And this aspect with Neptune is kind of highlighting where it is that we want to go from here, but we have to accept the hard, cold truth with some of the lies, some of the betrayals, some of the deception that is now being illuminated to us. And a lot of this could just be the lies that we've been telling ourselves, the reason why we can't get out of the rut, the reason why we can't align to our dreams, the reason why we don't feel worthy. There's a lot of confusion going on. And confusion has been divinely scripted in order to mix things up so that we can, put the pieces back together in a brand new way. Now, the tension kind of builds here because the moon in Taurus is going to square, which is a tension point, a conflict point, with Venus in Leo. So Venus rules over Taurus. This is like, it should be a very intense chat. Why? Because Venus in Leo has opened herself up. She wants to really pursue new passions, new dreams, new desires, new connections. But that moon in Taurus just wants to stick to the same old, same old. We find comfort in familiarity. We find comfort in repetitive tasks, repetitive routines. It's almost like we recognize that the rut that we're in is actually way more comfortable than exposing ourselves to the change that would have to take place to align us with the new dreams and the new visions that we're trying to bring to life. So there's a little bit of conflict happening here, and the true node chimes in at the most perfect of times to try and remind us where it is that we're trying to go, that vision that we've been holding on to, the vision that we're trying to create in our mental plane in order to actually bring that to life. And although that's a great reminder, we're just not in the mood for it. The moon in Taurus is very much just wanting to shut out the outside world and just kind of stick to, the close comfort of home, of routines, of the relationships that we don't have questions about. And the moon goes ahead and squares Saturn. So again, a square is a tension point. It's not a good conversation. It's on the verge of a confrontation that we just don't have the energy to have right now. And the moon in Taurus squaring Saturn, who of course is retrograde in Aquarius. Saturn brings in his doubts and his negativity and his concerns. Why? Well, because we're trying to remind ourselves of all the reasons of why, this rut ain't so bad. This routine, although it's boring and it sparks no joy and passion in me, I can rely on it. I know what's going to happen. If I stick to the same old, it's predictable. And right now, that Saturn in Aquarius energy, especially being retrograde, is all up inside of us, really pushing the boundaries of where it is we feel restricted, where it is that we feel, confined to our situations. And of course, that Saturn and Aquarius energy wants us to break those walls down, wants to liberate us. It wants to free us. But the moon in Taurus, not really about that right now. We don't want to be freed. It's almost like, if we were in a prison that we, of course, built ourselves, and we had the keys on us, which, of course, we were refusing to take out of our pocket and to unlock the door. It's as if somebody comes along and takes the keys out of our pocket and opens the door to the prison for us, and we just sit there. And we're really not sure if we want to walk through that or not. We're kind of exhausted. We'd rather just, curl up with a movie and cut out the outside world and just stuff our faces with food in order to kind of fill the void of the emotional voids that we're looking to escape from at this point. And so we're really just not feeling up to having an argument, a crisis point, a tension point. We're not up for change. We don't really care what Saturn has to say. We're kind of comfortable in the restrictions that we've kind of created for ourselves, which honestly is not the best place mentally, emotionally, or spiritually to be. Now, the moon does get a little bit of a jolt of energy, if you will. The moon in Taurus sextiles, which is a good aspect, with the sun in Cancer. So we have to remember here that the sun in Cancer is very emotional, very intuitive. We're kind of caught up in what it is that we need. We're feeling very vulnerable. We're feeling exposed. We're feeling very unsure about the present moment and the moments in the future to come. We're very nostalgic. We're very reflective. And, although we are kind of being encouraged to kind of stay the same, the moon in Taurus sextiling with this sun in Cancer is at least letting us know that right now we know what we need. We need a minute. We need to gather our thoughts. We need to regain our strength. We need to regain our perspective. We have to refocus. We have to recharge. We have to renew the faith, the optimism, the excitement in life again. And then the moon goes ahead and has an aspect with Chiron. And of course, Chiron is that wounded healer, really showing us where it is that we need to make some very bold moves in order to heal current situations, current emotions, current ways of thinking. And again, the moon in Taurus really just wants to stick to what it is that we know. Really just wants to put the blinders on, doesn't really want to think about, taking any action, using up any energy, thinking about the wounds, or thinking about how to heal them. That doesn't mean that they don't exist, though. And we definitely know that they exist because the sun in Cancer goes ahead and squares Chiron. This is a tension point. This is a crisis point. The moon in Taurus, our emotional, intuitive selves, might not want to put a big focus on what it is that we are being called to do right now. But the sun, which is the life force, illuminates for us the wounds. What wounds do we have? Well, the sun is in Cancer. So this is possessiveness. Why? Because we're so scared to let go of our attachments that we just kind of, squeeze onto them tighter. We are feeling vulnerable. Why? Because we have a lot of feels come up. We have a lot of memories come up. We're very reflective. We're very nostalgic. We're feeling very exposed. The sun in Cancer wants to provide us with safety and security. And right now we don't feel safe. We don't feel secure. That's mostly because we're in this very weird adjustment period. We're in this transitional period where we're leaving things behind and we're not quite attaching to the new. And so we just kind of retreat into our inner realms and, are just kind of consumed with a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings, a lot of vulnerabilities being exposed, a lot of wounds being exposed. And, in this particular energy, especially because we're building up to the new moon in Cancer, this is when the dark shadow parts really start coming alive. When we start focusing on the negative Nancy narrative, when we start realizing how deep our wounds are, how overly exposed we do feel, how vulnerable we are, recognizing that, relationships are falling apart because we're recognizing that, we're pouring more into them than they're pouring into us. We are kind of tired of, sitting with our back against the door, protecting ourselves from outside intruders, recognizing that, new boundaries, new walls need to be built. We don't have the energy right now. Just to be quite honest, we don't have the energy right now. The moon makes an aspect with Jupiter, and Jupiter, of course, retrograde, wanting to really show us where we need to grow internally, where we need to push the boundaries of our heart space, of our intuition, of the way that we think, of the way that we feel, on our inner realms. And the moon in Taurus wants to provide us with a little bit of stability, a little bit of a grounding point in order to say, oh yeah, no, I do understand that that's where I should be pouring my energy right now, but I don't want to. I just want to sit here in my rut. I want to complain about my life. I want to complain about how scared I am and how much I want change, but I'm not willing to take action to make change. I just want to be in this moment. I don't want to think about the past. I don't want to think about the future. I just want to be in this moment, regardless of how good or bad it may be. Now, the moon in Taurus sits next to Uranus, the Great Awakener, in Taurus as well. Now, the Great Awakener wants to shake us up and say, come on, you do this every time just when you get a little bit of hype, which of course we experienced last week at the tail end with, that last quarter moon in Aries, and then the moon being in Aries and firing us up and making us excited. And then of course, triggering our irritability and our frustration because we weren't able to be productive and move forward. And then we just lose that vibe. And the moon in Taurus really kind of brings us down in that way. And now it feels like we have to muster up all this courage again and muster up all this energy and all this excitement in order to kind of set out and try again. And we're just not in the mood. We're not having it right now. So the moon in Taurus conjunct Uranus, sitting next to Uranus. Uranus is, of course, trying to talk some sense into us, trying to show us that, this is just a mood. Don't be too hard on yourself. You will eventually pick yourself up again. You will find the energy. You will find the passion. You will find the desire in order to make the changes that you need to make. You know that you need to make them. I'm just repeating myself at this point. And Uranus really wants to kind of jolt us, whether it's from a negative standpoint. You know how sometimes people come at you and, they're trying to make you change and you don't want to change, so you do something in spite of them. Well, that's kind of the vibe that we're in right now. We don't want to do anything that Uranus wants us to do or Saturn wants us to do. Those are the, major heavy hitting planets. We just want to sit in this moment and just deal with whatever comes up. So the moon goes ahead and squares Mars. Now, this is another tension point. It's another frustration point. Mars, of course, in Leo, wants nothing more than to move forward at a very accelerated rate, busting through all the challenges, all the walls, all the obstacles set before him to go after what it is that he wants. What does he want? Well, he wants change. Where does he want it? In his daily life, in his relationships, in his money matters. He wants to start doing things, backed by the heart and soul. We want to do things that are aligning us with our mission, with our purpose. And so the moon in Taurus squaring Mars in Leo, this is a frustration. He is so ticked off that we are not willing to budge, that we have literally just kind of like dug our heels in. We have to remember that, of course, Taurus is ruled over by the bull, who is just very, very stubborn. right? Just will dig those heels in, root in, not budge. And Mars is not about that. He sees our emotional disconnect, our emotional want, need, and desire just to sit in whatever vibe we're currently sitting in as a delay. And that really ticks him off. That really puts him in a funk, in a mood. He's going to lash out. Irritability is going to be high. Frustrations are going to be high. And at the end of the day, we're just going to sit in it. We have to remember that right now, probably for the better part of the week, especially until midweek, we have this alignment with the sun aligning with the Sirius star. Now, it is a fixed star. It is a download of information and light codes that are supposed to kind of put us in a better mood, a better direction, but we're not supposed to do anything with them yet. It is kind of said that when the sun, our current sun, who is in Cancer right now, when the sun isn't as active and kind of in a rest period, it means that the spiritual sun out in the cosmos is revving up for a big change. And I think most of us can definitely agree that we feel like something big is about to happen. We feel like we're on the cusp of seeing a new reality emerge. However, the waiting in order for this to happen is absolutely exhausting, disappointing, and defeating. So just recognize that we're probably not going to feel like our best selves. If we are in a good vibration, if we are in a good mood, it will likely be a false mood, meaning we're really trying not to be Debbie Downers and we're trying to put our best foot forward. But if we were to act from an authentic place, we probably would be definitely sitting in the low vibe.